Welcome to the Dead Arm Dynasty podcast, where we try to give a refreshingly candid take on the long-term fantasy value of football players throughout college and the NFL for all you Devy League, Campus to Canton, and Dynasty fantasy football managers. We're just three friends who spend all our time talking fantasy anyway, so we figured why not get a few mics and capture our conversations. My name's Rick, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Josh Pecoraro and Jacob Ellis, a.k.a. Jealous. Welcome back to the show. It's Rick, Josh, and Jell back with some more fantasy goodness. We alluded to it last week, and now it's here. Today we're going to be going over our Dynasty Dream Teams, where we spent some time going through mock drafts, trying to put together the perfect Dynasty teams for each of our individual opinions, which will be fun to go over. Before we dive into those, we had a holiday last weekend. Josh, tell me how your 4th of July went.
It was great. Weather was hot, but it was fun. Went to the parents' house on Friday. Went to the lake and was out at the sandbar drinking beers with Dad, and brothers and
Papa
sisters
Mick
came up. Yeah,
Mickey.
Dan was there. Gina, nieces and nephew celebrated Gina and Ari's birthday, so it was a lot of fun. And
Gotta love Gina's birthday.
yeah, drank a lot of beverages, and then we went up by the fiance's parents' land as well in central Wisconsin. Sat out and had some fires, and yeah, it was a blast. And as everybody is well aware now, listening to our 6th episode, and back on the beer train, drinking some Three Sheeps Full Spectrum. It's a fruited sour with blackberry, passion fruit, and lemongrass. And once I get done with that one this episode, we're going to jump right into Mr. Rebel Kent Amber Ale from
Still
Three
rocking
Sheeps
the
as well.
Three Sheeps. Three Sheeps to the wind.
Dude. Oh, I'm going to be Three Sheeps to the wind after this episode.
Beautiful.
Into my dream team.
Dream
There you
team.
go. Jell, tell me about your 4th.
Oh, it was great. I went back up to Wisconsin for just to get up there, and went and saw some.
Well, not just to get up there.
Part of it was me just getting up there.
Okay.
I did not get it up there, unfortunately.
Okay.
Strike out.
All right.
Strike out that weekend.
That's too bad.
But no, went and saw some high school buddies, which was great. The other thing that was really cool was Bucks Game 6 was on Saturday, and we went to, I don't know if you guys have been watching any Bucks playoffs games, but we went to that giant watch party right outside Pfizer Forum. There's like 10,000 people all just watching on this big screen right outside the stadium.
Fucking nuts.
So it was like
That's
it was one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of. So yeah, that was amazing. And then yeah, obviously, went down, saw the parents, and got around to golfing with you guys, and then we had the wedding. So
Oh, yeah. I remember that nice birdie you had.
yeah, that's
That was beautiful.
that was 1 in a million right there.
Dropping it 1 foot away on a par
I did
3.
this. Hey, I did that same thing up in Michigan. I had that one on that par 3
Yeah.
about
2 in a million.
I think it was 4 feet 3 inches from the hole. That got one me
Good for
six-
one
Oh, did
shot
you
every
just-
golf season.
You just lay down your dick to measure that one?
That's all that it took. Yeah. But yeah, that
Beautiful.
got me a solid 60.
Dick jokes.
That got me a solid $60 from the winnings, and then I went and took that money, and instead of saving it, because I had already spent, Jesus Christ, probably $1,000 that weekend between the flight and the golf
Yeah.
itself, and just the amount of
Your
just
6-night hotel
the
stay.
flowing drinks all week.
Yep.
No, instead of just hanging on to that $60, I just decided, hey, why don't I go out and buy 21 shots for you guys and the other people at Michigan? But
I didn't know you could get 21 shots for $60, Ellis.
well, it wasn't just
That's a heck
$60.
of a deal.
It was probably closer to
Oh,
$100.
darn.
But that's where that $60 went. But that's not, that's neither here nor there. It was a great time. And so the weekend was, 4th of July weekend. Unfortunately, no fireworks in Milwaukee, which every year that's always amazing. They do it over Lake Michigan, coming from the Summerfest grounds. Canceled it because I guess they have staffing issues, just like everywhere else in the country. So they were forced to cancel the fireworks, which stunk, but still a great weekend. And then yeah, throughout the week, like I said, saw the parents, went golfing, and then the wedding on Saturday. which was
yeah.
I mean, can't ask for a better playlist, can't ask for a more lively, epic dance floor. So hats off to you, Rick. You guys put on a hell of a show.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it was a good time. It's been a fun couple weeks here. 4th of July didn't have a lot going on for me. Mostly just, wedding prep stuff. Yeah, that's what that weekend was for me. Golf, of course, with you guys was fun. But yeah, otherwise just, finishing up those last touches for the wedding, which was a blast. Everything went the way that we hoped it would. So I am thankful that nothing went wrong. Yeah, love.
Can't believe Papa Tom busted moves on the dance
I know,
floor.
right? Well, that's what you get when you can, handpick his personal hits by having his son be the one in charge of picking the music. That's what you get as a side effect, which is, the perk of not hiring a DJ. So yeah, it was a good time. Happy to be married now. Feels good. Feels like it should. And ready to dive into another podcast episode. Before we do, I do still have the same alcohol problem I had last week, which...
You made another mistake?
Yes, I made another mistake, also known as the... what is it? The pirate without...
It's just shitty wop.
Scurvy.
You just made shitty wop. Tried to...
Well, there's no added sugar, though, which is a nice little perk here.
Did you let it ferment the last week?
No, just freshly poured. Freshly poured blueberries and rum with a little bit of ice on top. So it should be a fun episode. Yeah, let's dive right in. And for the sake of buying me time to take some sips of my beverage here, Josh, why don't we dive in with your team? And before we fully get going, the concept of this being our Dynasty Dream Teams, this was our opportunity to do, several mock drafts from different locations within the draft to see. And we did 12 team leagues and half PPR Dynasty as our format here, and sort of felt it out to find out where we should draft from and how we should go about doing the draft to create a team that we thought we would absolutely love to have. So that in mind, Josh, what was your initial strategy when you started effing around with this?
All right, so what I used for our platform, and I think you guys did as well, is Sleeper. For those of you that like to do mock drafts, they're not a sponsor of ours by any means, but they're a great platform. They're very good options for plugging in how many teams you have in your leagues, your different league formats, whether it's super flex, whether it's 6-point, 4-point, whatever. You can pretty much put whatever you want to on there and run through and do a bunch of drafts. Because let's face it, that's how you get good at drafting to start off the season and knowing where players should be going. So what I did for my strategy, I jumped into the 6th spot of my draft. I don't like being first in that first couple picks just because I don't like that long turn coming back from the 12 spot. You're picking first and grabbing, you're going to grab McCaffrey, Cook, Kamara, whoever, and then you're going to come back and there's going to be a teardrop there. So I chose the 6th spot. I went in, crocodile tears. So I went into the 6th spot. My typical draft strategy is I like to go running back heavy at the start just because they're hard to find. So I thought I was going to be doing that, and then I thought into it more, and I ended up going Justin Jefferson with my first pick. So I ended up skipping over Devonta Adams. With this being Dynasty format here, I just felt Justin Jefferson was the better move there over a running back, over Devonta Adams, just because the wide receiver position has a lot more longevity than a running back does in Dynasty format. Justin Jefferson was a rookie last year. He's going to have tons and tons of years in the future that he's going to be productive and be a stud on your fantasy team. So I locked in my wide receiver 1 with Justin Jefferson there. What are your guys' thoughts on that? The other player that was available that I had such a hard time going between was Jonathan Taylor. He was sitting there for me at 6 as well, but I just had to go with the wide receiver position there. What do you guys think on my first pick?
I love it. I did about 4 of these mock drafts, and one of them I started with Justin Jefferson for the same reasons. Longevity, he proved as a rookie he's absolutely dominant. So I could never, ever fault you for picking him at the 6th spot in a Dynasty League. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I like to go running back early. I think there's just more wide receiver depth, so I personally would go Jonathan Taylor there. But there's no question that Jefferson's going to be solid for a number of years. I just personally like to go running back if there's one of those top tier guys available, and I think JT falls into that, tier 1 type of back. So I would have gone him there, but Jefferson's going to be a boss, and he was obviously last year's rookie year, as was Taylor. But I personally like to go back, but that's just my own strategy.
Yeah, no, and like I said, that's where I struggled a little bit. It was going away from my normal draft strategy because I like to go running back heavy, and I couldn't see my dream team without Justin Jefferson on it, and if I don't take him there, he's not going to be on it. So, and then for those of you listening, we also wanted to make this realistic. So when we say our dream team, it's not our actual players that we would like to have on our team that is unrealistic. So we're not doing McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook. People were dumb in our league and didn't draft Dalvin Cook the entire rest of the 1st or 2nd round. These are guys that are going
right
relatively ADP wise in the rounds that they're going to. So we just want to make sure that was clear. So my 2nd round pick, with going wide receiver first, I did want to make sure I got my running back, and I ended up going with Najee Harris. So I started off my team with Justin Jefferson and Najee right there. So I felt like that was a great combo to build my team around. The only other player I was considering that is right around Najee's ADP for Dynasty in that mid-2nd round was Cam Akers. I just felt with the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers running backs that I'd had a better shot long-term with Najee there instead of Cam Akers. I am really high on Cam Akers, but Stafford doesn't have a ton of years left where Rams offense might not be that great. Pittsburgh, we've seen the longevity there where it doesn't matter. Even if Big Ben's out, Lev Bell was there and was running wild. So I felt comfortable having Najee there as my RB1 in the 2nd round. Would you guys have taken Akers over Najee, or you like Najee there?
I might take Akers over Najee, but those two are really, really close for me. I know that ADP-wise, I think Akers falls ahead of Najee in Dynasty ADP. And I certainly think that he's got high potential, but at the same time, the Rams have shown that they don't care to commit to people all that much. They're fine with just kind of rotating to whoever's got the hot hand, and Pittsburgh doesn't have a choice, so I love the Najee pick.
What about you, Joe?
I mean, I probably would go Cam just because he did show that he's going to be... He showed last year that he can be solid, and he's going to be a starter for that Rams team that does love to use their running backs. I mean, we saw what Gurley did while he was in LA, and it's still McVay back there. It's still McVay calling the plays. God, Rick.
Doesn't taste any better this week.
The drink just looks too appetizing. No, I mean, I would have gone Akers there, but I have no issue with going Najee. Najee's he's gonna be a workhorse. There's no question about that. The only thing that I question about going Akers over Najee is Najee's offensive line it's not as strong as I think the Rams, although that Rams offensive line is aging. So Najee may be the better dynasty pick. Again, I could say 50-50 on this.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was torn with it too. I feel like either way I was making a good choice there, and I needed to grab one of those top tier running backs in the 2nd spot going wide receiver in my 1st round. So that leads me to my 3rd round pick, and I'm going to be honest, this was the pick that I struggled with the most. We had quite a few guys sitting out there, and Kyle Pitts was very, very, very intriguing. And I spent probably half an hour just trying to figure out where I was going to go with my 3rd pick, and I ended up not taking Kyle Pitts, and I went with Justin Jefferson's teammate at LSU, Jamar Chase. So I wanted to lock up. I think he's going to be an absolute stud for a long time. I went Jamar Chase over Kyle Pitts also due to we don't know how long Matt Ryan's going to be there, and it really scares me after Matt Ryan's gone what that Atlanta Falcons offense is going to look like in a couple years. With Matt Ryan's contract, they can't cut him for at least 2 years, but it scares me a little bit. Pitts in the short term is probably going to be a lot better of a player. He's going to come out of the gates firing, but I know Jamar Chase, I know Joe Burrow's going to be throwing him the ball for a long time, as long as they're both still on the Bengals, which I don't see that not happening. I mean, Joe Burrow looked awesome last year in his rookie year before the injury happened, and you had Jamar Chase, his teammate at LSU, great rapport there, and Jamar Chase is coming in. He's first round pick. He's got that 5th-year option, so you know he's locked in with the Bengals for 5 years. So I know, Rick, you're probably going to have a little bit different point of view here than I did, but that's where I went with Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into my take on Pitts a little later, but I love Jamar Chase as a dynasty player, as a redraft player. It doesn't matter. He's insanely talented. He's going back with his college quarterback who broke a bunch of records with him as a wide receiver before. They're going to be awesome. Jamar Chase is going to be awesome. This is an easy plug-and-play round 3 dynasty pick. I'm a fan. He really likes his grandmother's sugar cookies, which is a nice trait for Jamar Chase to have. So yeah, you gotta love when they have that little piece of heart coming out of there too. So yeah, big Jamar Chase fan. Joe, what do you think?
I put premium on the position, and I would have gone Pitts there. I also think that Pitts, as we all know and what we've seen, is that he's just an absolute freak. Not that Jamar Chase isn't, but there is that position premium on a tight end. And so I would have gone Pitts there myself. However, I mean, again, back to that Najee Cam Akers deal, I think he could go 50-50 on each. And depending on your roster construction and what you're eyeing in the future, if you have a tight end that you're eyeing that you can plug in and you can get a couple rounds later, then I have no problem with you going Chase. Especially for, dynasty format and redraft. I think they're both going to be great right away and for the next decade.
Yeah, no, that, like I said, this was the toughest pick for me. Just seeing Pitts in Dynasty going in that 3rd round, it was just, it's tough. It really was, but I felt confident that I could find some sort of flyer later on that I'll get into in quite a few rounds later, but I'll get into my tight end selection. So kind of just avoided that position due to, in a couple picks, I'll be going over somebody that I took a little bit earlier on than I usually do. So I avoided the tight end position for a little while here, but 4th round came along and had 2 wide receivers on my roster, had a running back. I knew if I waited any longer with the running back position and kicked that to the curb, it would be slim pickings, and I needed to grab somebody that I can plug in from day one that I'm pretty confident is going to be the starting running back going into the season, or at least have a big role after the first couple weeks. And I ended up going Javonte Williams in the 4th round out of Denver. So I
love it.
Went with him. I love Denver. They're going to be running the football, especially with the quarterbacks. Take some heat off of them. Cold weather games, as I touched on 2 weeks ago. I think Javonte is the real deal, and I think he's going to be very good and be able to plug him in. So it's a little scary right now. My roster construction is 3 rookies and Justin Jefferson. So a little shaky, but
sounds like a dynasty roster.
That's a dynasty roster.
It is. Might not win the first year, but we're built for success. So.
Yeah,
and then I'll run through my next 2 picks, and then you guys can kind of comment if you want to know anybody else around any of them. But just for the sake of going through my team, 5th round, I wanted to get a veteran in there, somebody that I can plug in that puts up consistent stats each year, and ended up going with Amari Cooper. Still got a few years left. Grab that veteran presence. Dallas's offense is doing well, so I was confident having him as my wide receiver 3, so you can plug him into your flex spot, and it's a pretty solid lineup if you can have Amari Cooper in your flex spot. And then with my 6th pick, this is where I did something I usually don't do. Usually I draft quarterbacks late, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity having T-Daddy Trevor Lawrence on my team, so I went Trevor Lawrence in the 6th round. So
you are going hard rookies.
Hard rookie, yeah. There's a lot of guys that are rookie and second year players on my team. So I sprinkled in some veterans a little bit later on, and I'll run through briefly, but I went pretty heavy with some of the studs that have come out of the last two classes. So what do you guys think about my 4, 5, 6 picks in Williams, Cooper, and Lawrence?
Well, I'm a little jealous that you got Cooper in the 5th because on my draft he went at the 4-10 pick, so I didn't even have him as anywhere close to my spot in the 5th. So yeah, I'm a fan of what you did there. It'll be apparent soon enough that I like the Javonte Williams pick, and certainly Trevor Lawrence makes total sense as a dynasty grab as your QB1 because, let's get real. I don't care what the beat reports or the coaches rather say. Trevor Lawrence is going to start game 1.
It's just that's bullshit.
I don't even understand why they're trying to BS their way around it. It makes no sense. No.
It's really fun when coaches try and fool, and the Bears are really good at this. Try and fool everyone by not telling them their plans, even though everyone else knows the plans. So it's just kind of this fun little game where everyone else is aware and the team itself is in the dark that everyone else is aware. So that's kind of what's happening with Jacksonville right now. Urban Meyer trying to keep his cards close to the chest, which is not working at all because they're two-sided cards.
If I don't know how much you guys have paid attention to what Urban has said over this offseason, but he's just basically been talking out of his ass the entire time. It's just been BS left and right.
I mean, that works out because his mouth kind of looks like a butthole.
He's also got the butthole chin. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's all there. He's got to throw a couple thicker cheeks on him. He's a full-on ass face. Jell, you got any other thoughts on those 3 picks, Josh?
I mean, I love the Javonte Williams pick. Eric, I don't want to, I'm not going to steal your thunder if you said you're going to talk about him later. But, I mean, we talked about him on a previous episode, too, about how, we all know that this Melvin Gordon situation, it's tricky at best. And I think Javonte is going to come out of camp or come out of the preseason at least with, at worst, a split backfield but possibly getting the Lions at share of the carries in Denver.
Yep.
All right,
Josh, hit us with your 7. All right. 7, 8, 9.
I'll throw in a 10 too. I'll let you guys comment on 4, so be ready.
Here we go.
All right, so you'll love this one, Al. I got another rookie here in the 7th round. I needed a running back, and with Jeff Wilson Jr. out, I like Trey Sermon a lot. I think he's going to take over that starting role sooner than later, and that San Francisco backfield is one that you really want to have somebody in. They've been studs for the last X amount of years, and they haven't really had that workhorse. Raheem Mostert looked great last year, but he's been very injury-plagued, so I don't expect him to play a full season. And Trey Sermon's looked good so far in camp, and I think he's somebody I'll be able to plug in, put in a flex spot right away. So, and then this is probably my most dicey, interesting pick out of all of the picks that I had. 8th round. I don't know what it was. I tried to find somebody else, but I kept going back to having the stack of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So I went Joe Burrow in the 8th round. I grabbed my 2 quarterbacks, said I'm done. I'm going to ride with those guys for my dynasty and ride them off into the sunset. And I couldn't help the fact to put Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in my lineup here and there too, and just have that stack because I think that stack's going to be unbelievable. 9th round, another rookie, Gel, Elijah Moore. Absolutely love Elijah Moore out of the Jets. I mean, he's had just a phenomenal camp. He's going to be a stud. So, and then the 10th pick had a down year last year, but I expect to have him potentially be the wide receiver 1 in Las Vegas, and took Henry Ruggs the 3rd. So, what do you guys think of my 7, 8, 9 with Sermon, Burrow, Moore, and Ruggs?
Henry Ruggs just doesn't do it for me. I'm fine with the other picks, but Henry Ruggs just does not do it for me. I mean, he's got blazing speed, and I didn't understand why he was the first. Not just the first first wide receiver overall taken in that 2020 draft.
Yep.
But the first Alabama receiver taken. Just that alone. I mean, when you had Jerry Jeudy there, you had CeeDee Lamb there. I think that they both showed that their promise is a lot higher than Henry Ruggs. Now, Gruden obviously is very aggressive on offense, so hopefully he can get Ruggs more into the games, at least more involved on a weekly basis. But just from last year, there was such a lack of production. I obviously understand it more in Dynasty than a redraft, and this is a Dynasty-based draft, dream team draft that we're doing. But I don't know enough to make, I don't know what to make of Ruggs, so I'm just myself. I tend to be out on him.
Yeah, that's fair. Josh, you said you wanted to ride out into the sunset with Lawrence and Burrow. That sun's not going to set for like 17 years.
No, that's why I'm stacked, and that's a position now
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about again for a long time.
Yep. Totally agree. I think I'm a little more on board with the Ruggs train there. Not that it's, a big hype train, but I think that he's going to be better than he was last year. Obviously, he's not CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy, but he is useful in his own right. And I think that now that Nelson Aguilar's out of town, yes, John Brown is there too. So we'll see who gets the big, deep catches. I know that last year there were plenty of scenarios where Henry Ruggs was wide open deep and Derek Carr was just missing him. So he could have been better last year. I am hopeful that he's better this year. I don't mind the pick.
Now, I've got 2 questions for you guys. I'm just going to throw out some names in the 7th round and then the 10th round where Ruggs went. So I'm looking more at Sermon and Ruggs on my team, and I'm going to throw out some guys that went within 2 picks of those guys that I could have also taken for my dream team, see where you guys sit, if I made the right call and your perspectives or not. Ellis, I know you had an issue with Ruggs. Other guys going in his general vicinity for Dynasty. We've got Jarvis Landry, Terrace Marshall, Robert Tonyan, Ruggs, Hunter Henry. Those were the guys that were within 2 picks of mine. So Ruggs had the most upside for me. You could argue maybe Terrace Marshall, but I felt like Ruggs was the guy I wanted. He's got that deep play ability, and I thought that's where I wanted
Marshall's
to go.
probably the guy that I would have gone with there, just because Robbie Anderson has one. This is his last year on his contract. Marshall's eventually going to be that second wide receiver in Carolina, and I guess Ruggs again. He's got mad speed, and that's nice. That's all good and well, but so did Darius Hayward-Bay in Oakland. So I hope Ruggs turns out to be a better receiver than Hayward-Bay, but I have my hesitations, and I'd rather take more of a flyer at Marshall. He's obviously much more of an unknown in terms of what he could do in the pros, but I guess I would just lean Marshall just because of my own lack of belief in Ruggs or in the Raiders, the Raiders in general.
Where do you sit, Rick?
Yeah, I think I agree. I'll take the unknown of Marshall over the known so far of Ruggs. That's kind of always the tricky thing with rookies, is that rookies are unknown, and in Dynasty leagues there's kind of a collective agreement of everyone in the league that the last several bench spots are going to go to guys that have proven nothing and have the hypothetical potential to be incredible, instead of just filling your roster with guys who are mediocre and could be plug and play if they had to be. So it's nice that everyone agrees to that in Dynasty, so that your J.D. McKissicks of the world can sit on waivers until you need them. But I'll take I will stash Terrace Marshall over Henry Ruggs right now, but just barely.
All right. Yeah, no worries at all there. 7th round, I wanted to throw that back as well. I drafted Trey Sermon. Other guys that were going around him were Cortland Sutton, Deebo Samuel, and also Michael Carter. I needed a running back at that point in time based on my roster makeup. I had Najee Harris and Javonte Williams there, so I ended up going with Trey Sermon. I felt like his prospects long-term were better than Michael Carter, and then with the 2 wide receivers there in Sutton and Deebo, like I said, I felt that running back was where I needed to go with that pick.
Surprised you didn't go with your boy Deebo,
It was tough.
That
it was tough.
is
I love
boy.
me some Deebo, but yeah, I needed a running back there. I took his teammate.
I would have gone if I were, if I had, just not considering roster construction, and obviously you're saying you needed a running back. So I would have gone Sermon over Carter as well. But if I had the choice between, any of those 4 guys, I would have gone Sutton 1. I probably would have gone Sutton 1, Sermon 2, then your boy Debo, and then Carter. But of course, everything's built on how the rest of your roster is, so how it shakes out. So I mean, if you have to go running back, Sermon was obviously the guy.
Yeah, I agree too. Sermon's the guy there, based on roster construction only. Trey Sermon, Cortland Sutton is, my guy. I would have forced it, and we'll find out later that I did force it. But yes, in your scenario with your roster construction, I understand the Trey Sermon pick for sure.
All right, so yeah, I'll dive into my 11th, and from last week's episode, we must have a ton of listeners pushing up his ADP because I went Darnell Mooney as the 11th draft pick. So,
all right.
Yeah, I like I had touched on last week. I really like Darnell Mooney, and I think he's gonna be a boom player this year, and I really like that. And then I'm gonna throw a little see if you guys can guess who my 12th pick is here. I just got his mini helmet off of not a sponsor, Pristine Auction for $30.
Cole Kmet.
Cole Kmet it is. Good guess.
Yes! Oh,
Good guess. So that is my tight end that I chose to take a flyer
Holy
on right
moly.
now. So
Fucking nailed it.
Nicely done.
it's scary having 2 Bears in my first 12 picks, but I really like Justin
That's
Fields' long-term prospects there. Cole Kmet looked awesome last year. Jimmy Graham's maybe going to be there this year. He could end up being a cut once it boils down to it before the season starts. But Cole Kmet's going to be their main tight end this year. So Jimmy Graham will be sprinkled in here and there. Cole Kmet was great, not only in the red zone, but also just getting him the ball in open field. And I really like him there. So, and then the 13th pick, I ended up going with one of my other sleepers from last week, Gabriel Davis. I really like his long-term prospects in Buffalo, being the wide receiver 2. And then I needed just some running back depth, and I went Javian Hawkins in the 14th. So kind of that hybrid running back wide receiver role, kind of see where he plays out. And with my 15th pick, I went with Atlanta's wide receiver 2 and Russell Gage. So I really liked him this year, and just kind of long-term too with Matt Ryan there. So what do you guys think about those 5 picks? Anybody stand out, or anybody you're like, why in the hell did you draft him? Or
I'm pretty happy for you that Russell Gage fell down to round 15. We'll get to him on in my draft at some point, but at round 15, that's baller to get Russell Gage. I mean, we talked about him before. He's going to be that, that receiver opposite of Calvin Ridley on likely every play, or any play that they don't have, just one receiver on the field. So that's sweet.
Yeah, man, I love all of it. I wish our teams would stop having so much overlap, but that'll just make it that much faster when I run through my team. So yeah, I love it too. I also could not have gotten Russell Gage in my 15th based on just how my mock draft fell, but yeah, good for you on that one.
Yeah, he went 15-6, so right at my pick. Didn't even have to go the 2-pick lenience I gave myself for area. Other players that went around him were Latavius Murray, Elijah Mitchell, Matt Ryan, and Dwayne Eskridge. So to me, it was it was a no-brainer there.
To me.
So,
yep.
So I'll just kind of dive into my last few picks here. Nothing too crazy. We talked about one of these guys last week. Not this next guy, but I needed some running back depth, especially with, I know Najee's going to be starting from week 1. Javonte, he should be starting week 1, but in case he doesn't, and in case Trey Sermon doesn't start right away, I wanted some depth, and then I just grabbed Tevin Coleman. He was going there, and I know he's going to be getting some playing time. He's pretty washed up, but he knows that offense the best with Robert Saleh coming over and LaFleur coming over from San Francisco. So I just plugged him into my lineup. He's somebody I might be able to flex if I need to week 1, first couple weeks, and then he's going to be somebody that I'll look to cut and grab somebody else off the waiver wire. with my next couple picks, I hedged my tight end bet of Cole Kmet, and I went with Gerald Everett, Rick's boy from last week, sleeper pick. I think he's going to be just fantastic this year. So he went in my 17th round, and I think that's going to be nuts. But with Dynasty, it's understandable. So he doesn't have a ton of years left, but I could definitely plug him in for the next couple of years and feel confident with that. And then I also went with another guy, change of scenery, Jared Cook, coming over from New Orleans over to the Los Angeles Chargers. Going into that Justin Herbert offense, I really like Jared Cook there. And then
solid value on both those tight ends.
Yeah, 17th, 18th round of the draft.
That's solid.
Yep. Then the last four guys, I'll just throw out their names. I went some more running back depth here. 3 out of the next 4 running backs went Jamar Jefferson. We had MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling went in my 20th round, which he could get some work if Aaron Rodgers is there. And then a little Wayne Gallman action to hedge Trey Sermon, and Captain America Chris Evans with my last pick.
Not gonna lie, not loving the Wayne Gallman pick, just because we've seen what he is, but he'll, I guess my biggest beef is he'll end up as probably the third running back in San Fran.
Yeah, and
between
that's
Sermon and Mostert.
The only reason where I went with him was solely because I had Trey Sermon on my team. I figure at some point in time Raheem Mostert's going to get hurt
at some point,
and
anyways,
Wayne Gallman's going to be the next one up with Jeff Wilson Jr. out. So at least if something happens with Sermon, I've at least got somebody in the San Francisco backfield. So.
Yeah, I like it. I've got more overlap out of those picks, so we can get more on those later. But I totes agree with those late round picks. I understand the Gallman choice. I did something similar with picking the backup to one of my own running backs, because at that point in the draft, there's only so much you can do with your picks, and it's either that you're going to pick a guy who's going to sit on your bench and wait until they explode, or they're going to sit on your bench and wait until the guy in front of them gets hurt. And if that guy in front of them who gets hurt is on your own fantasy team, it really helps to have that guy sitting there ready to go. So I get that for sure.
Yep. Yeah.
By the way, I do dig that Tevin Coleman pick, especially for early on in the year, given how young your roster is. Yeah. I mean, I would expect Tevin's probably going to be getting the ball, weeks, maybe 1 through 6, where he's going to be the feature back at least, unless he just shows that he's trash. But Robert Saleh, and probably more importantly, Mike LaFleur?
Michael LaFleur.
Yeah. And so
cram it up your cram hole,
LaFleur. LaFleur. He'll bring over that same, kind of zone run scheme that they run in San Fran, assuming that they're going to do that in New York. So, like you said, Tevin's going to know what that offense, or what he needs to do on offense there.
Yeah, and like I said, if I would have went with more, veteran running backs, studs early on, Tevin Coleman probably would have been completely off my draft board. But like I said, with Williams and Sermon there, I just didn't know if they'd be starting. Yes, nothing's guaranteed the first couple weeks, so I figure I could put Coleman in worst case scenario, get a couple catches or get maybe a touchdown here and there, and just kind of wait until it gets going, and then cut him and find somebody else off the waiver. So
exactly.
My team, before I throw it over to the next person, I ended up with 2 QBs, 9 wide receivers, 8 running backs, 3 tight ends. So pretty balanced team. Pretty happy with all the picks. So like I said, the only one I was questionable with in there was Joe Burrow in the 8 spot, but I really, really, really like the prospects of Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow, and not ever having to worry about the quarterback position again.
What up, my party people? It's your boy Jealous. I got to put in a good word for our friends over at Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the absolute easiest way to record a podcast. Anchor has creation tools that allows you to record and edit right from your phone, your computer, or your tablet. Easy as that. It will also distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other listening platforms. You can also make money directly through the program with no minimum amount of listeners. And best of all, kids, it's free. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
All right, so before we move on to the next team, I just want to double check. Joe, where did you draft from?
I took the number 1 overall pick.
Okay, so if you're from the 1 pick, we'll save you for the end because you're going to be more different than Josh and I here. For better or worse, I also drafted from the 6th spot. Josh, we had similar thoughts going on here. My initial...
Is there a reason you guys both picked that? I mean, Josh, you did say that you just don't like being at the ends because of that like long delay. Rick, is there did you just figure, hey, let me throw myself into the middle of a round and see how it shakes out, or is there a reason that you want a spot in the middle of each round?
For me, there were priorities, and after I kind of effed around with one draft, I saw how things fell a little bit so that I could then assess where my priorities lie. So for me, the number 1 priority in every mock draft that I did was that I had to leave with Kyle Pitts or else it was a failure and I had to restart. And then my second priority was if I can get Jonathan Taylor and Kyle Pitts together, then I will be pretty happy with how this draft starts.
Like boner central right there.
Yeah. So that is exactly what happened for me. I'll just jump into my first 3 picks. So at the 6th pick, Justin Jefferson actually went at 5, interestingly enough. So I took Jonathan Taylor at 6. I was pumped about that. I wanted to start with a running back because in the drafts where I experimented with a wide receiver heavy start, I just really hated myself by round 7 when the running backs were really bad. So Jonathan Taylor to start. I think I lucked out in the 2nd round. At the 207, I got DK Metcalf. And then Kyle Pitts in the 3rd. I reached a little bit, but not a lot for him. So I personally was absolutely thrilled with my first 3 picks. What you guys got any thoughts?
I mean,
I say that's a reach for Pitts, but like you said, you wanted him, you needed him, and so sometimes you got to reach for those types of guys. And Pitts is one that's worth reaching for. I mean, like I mentioned before, position, you've got that tight end position, which if you're split between 2 guys, I generally would lean, if you're split between a tight end and a wide receiver, I'm going to lean tight end. So, and if, I think he's going to be a boss. So,
yeah,
I've got no issues with the reach, but I do agree it was a bit of one.
See, I don't think it was that much of a reach because most of the mocks that I did, he was going at like anywhere from the 3-9 to the 3-11 spot, and at the 3-6, it's only 3 to 4 picks. So I don't think it was that much of a reach, especially for somebody that could be such a dynamic player in the league and potentially set a ton of tight end records down the road. I'm just more surprised that DK made it back around to you at the 2. What would that be? 207 spot?
So that
207. That
falls as the 19th overall pick.
But still, for Dynasty, I mean, what?
Oh, I know. I'm saying that's crazy.
Can you read? I'm just very curious on. Can you tell like a couple of the players that went around where he was, and then also some of the wide receivers that went in front of him too?
Yeah, for sure. I'll just read the guys before him since that's kind of the more appealing part here. So tracing back from DK was Najee, Pat Mahomes, Aaron Jones, A.J. Brown, Zeke, J.K. Dobbins. And then the first round receivers
I'm going DK over Zeke. I'm out on Zeke.
I'm out on Zeke, and you said Dobbins went in there too?
Dobbins went at the 201.
That's insane. I
also thought that.
I would take him late 2nd, 3rd maybe, but I mean he wasn't even on my dream team, and he wouldn't have even been considered just with how their offensive construction is. But yeah, no, that's awesome. JT, DK, Pitts, man, I'd be creaming my shorts if my dynasty team started off like that.
yeah, for sure. And the reason that Pitts, I had to do it, and I had to do it the way that I did, was that I tried going to the end of the draft and then getting Pitts right where he belongs, and I just hated the way it was turning out. So that's why I went back to the 6th spot, start with JT, and then get Pitts in the 3rd, reach a little bit. And then it worked out okay in the 4th that I was still happy enough with it. Which, in my case, same as you, Josh, Javonte Williams is who I got in the 4th. I have nothing to add on what we said before, besides that he was the reincarnate of Le'Veon Bell, and that is a good thing for me to imagine. So, pumped about getting him in the 4th. Then we got 5th round, T. Higgins. As I was texting you guys about the other day, just did a little film research on T because I needed to, get up to speed on what he did last year, what his prospects are, and I liked what I saw on film. He is definitely talented. He's playing with Joe Burrow, and now he's going to have Jamar Chase on the other side of the field, who's going to draw the top corner instead of T. So as far as I'm concerned, T's got a good future as a steady wide receiver.
And that's the only reason I did not go Higgins in the 5th is because I had drafted Chase in the 3rd, and I didn't want to take 2 Bengals wide receivers in the first 5 picks of my dynasty. Otherwise, no, I love the Higgins pick.
Yep, that makes total sense. And then pick 6 was the most obvious Rick pick ever, which was Cortland Sutton. I was not going to let him go. I drafted him in every single mock that I attempted. It was Pitts and then it was him. There was no way I was going to leave a draft without those 2.
That's as obvious as it can get.
Yep.
You'd have liked my draft then, where he was available in the 7th round.
Yeah, I was pissed to hear that because I apparently reached in the 6th to get him, but I was not going to, risk it. But it worked out okay because in round 7 I got Trey Sermon to pair with Javonte Williams and Jonathan Taylor. So that's 2 rookies out of 3 at the running back position, which is fine by me because this is a dynasty league and I don't necessarily need my running backs to be at their prime immediately when I draft. I want them to be at their prime in like 3 years from now. And I think that all of those guys will be in the middle of their prime in about 3 years from now. So I am perfectly happy starting with that group, even if the actual number of snaps that they get out the gate is not as good as it would be if I was drafting veterans instead.
But that's the point of dynasty, right?
Right,
absolutely.
Right.
Building your team for the next 10 years. So
give yourself a chance this year, but really plan on winning 3 years, 2 years from now. So then after Trey Sermon, I went in the 8th round. I was extremely torn between 2 receivers that I love, both of them. And I ended up deciding to go with Laviska Shenault over Michael Pittman. Josh, what are your thoughts on those 2 sitting in the 8th round? I was thrilled that they were both around.
I would have went exactly the route that you went. I was torn between Joe Burrow and Shenault, and ultimately I wanted that stack like I had talked about previously. But no, Laviska Shenault looks like he's going to be the real deal. Curious to see with just a whole new offensive system. You got Trevor Lawrence coming in, just kind of seeing the rapport if they're able to build one and just kind of see what that offense looks like. But everything out of the Jacksonville camp is in the positive direction with Laviska. So no, I absolutely love that pick.
Yeah, I was just so between the 2 and obviously loving both of them. Michael Pittman with Carson Wentz, there's a chance that becomes like a real connection, both as a second-year wide receiver and Carson Wentz coming to a team that has a decent offensive line and some good weapons around him, but ultimately went with Laviska instead. Jell, what you got any thoughts between those 2?
Yeah, I think Pittman is the more traditional like wide receiver, and Wentz is going to be going back to obviously him in Indy. Indy's got one of the strongest offensive lines in the league. Back when he flourished, back in 2018 when he was in those MVP talks, that was when the Eagles had a really strong offensive line. I mean, Lane Johnson was arguably one of the best tackles in the league. He's going to get, and he was surrounded by 4 other really strong offensive linemen. He's now going to Indy, where he's got arguably the best right guard, or arguably the best guard in the NFL with Quentin Nelson. So I could see Wentz having a sweet year, and that would result in Pittman having a sweet year. So I personally would have probably gone Pittman over Shenault, but I could see the argument both ways.
Yeah, for sure. This was a 50-50 toss-up.
I was going to say that's a toss-up for me too.
Yeah.
So
I'm perfectly happy with my real-life dynasty team having Pittman. Thrilled about it. In this case, I like Shenault. I went Shenault. Jumping into the next couple rounds here. Still don't have a quarterback, so in round 9 was my last resort quarterback of Justin Fields. I was not willing to have my QB1 be any worse than
both
Justin
of your
Fields.
boys.
So I'm pumped to start a dynasty team with Justin Fields. My favorite quarterbacks to pick would have been guys like Justin Herbert and Kyler Murray, and they were both a little too steep priced for me in a dynasty. I would rather spend my early draft capital on the other skill players, wide receivers, running backs. and wait on QB and figure that out later.
And,
so
and
that's
obviously considering the draft position where you would have to go get a Kyler or a Herbert,
right.
If you can wait till round 9 and you feel confident in Fields, then that's no issues.
Yeah, and just for like those that are in dynasty formats, in a full startup dynasty, I think it's better to take a quarterback a little bit later on. I know I had taken one in the 6th round. However, most traditional dynasty leagues, you have your rookie draft, and if you're not in a super flex, you're going to be able to grab a quarterback in the first like 8 picks or so. So you've always have that shot every year to grab a quarterback if yours just aren't panning out. So I like to wait in this particular situation, Rick.
Cool. Yeah. That was my thought for sure. Guys come out every year that are going to turn into the next franchise players. I just have a little faith that Justin Fields is going to be one of those. After Justin Fields in the 10th and 11th, I went back-to-back running backs because to this point, I only have 3 in J-Tay, Javonte, and Trey Sermon. So now I'm going to load up a little bit more with Tony Pollard and Chuba Hubbard. The mentality there is that while my first 3 probably will get plenty of playing time, and I spent a lot of draft capital on other positions to shore up the rest of my starting roster, I wanted to grab a couple guys who are not only, going to get some touches on their own and can be plugged in if they have to be, but more importantly, will get a huge workload the moment somebody gets hurt. And not that we ever, want anyone to get hurt, besides maybe like Antonio Brown or something.
Your boy.
I thought that Pollard and Chuba Hubbard were good plug-in guys as my running back 4 and 5, because, who knows what Zeke's future, long-term is. He seems like he's tailing off a little bit. At least he was last year. We'll find out what it is this year. And then McCaffrey, one thing is clear is that Super Bowl winning teams don't pay a lot of money to their running backs. So at what point are the Panthers going to cut ties with paying a shitload of money to a running back and instead go with the guy on a rookie contract? I'd like to think it's sooner rather than later, but we'll see as time goes by. But that was the mindset on those two. Any objections or thoughts there?
No, and with Hubbard, I mean, take it what you will, but there was rumors coming out of Carolina before all of Deshaun Watson's issues. We won't get into those, but they were talking about, there's rumors that they were willing to flip McCaffrey in a trade for him. So, I mean, it definitely says that they're willing to do it. I mean, he's a huge part of their offense, and if he's not there or if he gets hurt, Hubbard should step right into that role. I mean, you saw Mike Davis, who isn't anything really special athletically. I mean, he's solid, but I mean, you saw him step into that role and have great success last year in Carolina.
Success.
What's on the line there, Josh?
Yeah,
so
baby, gonna have some success in my honeymoon coming up here.
Hey-o.
But no, I like those picks. Some depth pieces that, especially Pollard, I mean, he's got to only have 1-2 years left on his deal in Dallas, so there's a chance that he could end up even going to another team and being their RB1. So I like those picks, and I really like the
living
Fields
in Dallas. I see basically every Cowboys game, and from what I've watched last year, Pollard. Granted, he wasn't the workhorse, so it's not like it's not like he was dealing with the same fatigue factor that Zeke was, but Pollard looked like the more explosive back whenever he got the ball in his hands over Zeke. I expect that workload to just only increase as Zeke gets older, continues to slow down, which he has already shown signs of slowing down. I love the Pollard pick.
Absolutely, yeah. Zeke's in that same boat of he got paid a lot, and Super Bowl winning teams don't pay their running backs. And as much as I want to, be on the side of the running backs, the trends are the trends, and they work out for a reason.
Yeah.
So they the Cowboys are paying Dak, Zeke, Amari Cooper, DeMarcus Lawrence, Tyron Smith, all crazy money, like
big money.
Top 2, top 3 for their position. Would you say that any of them are really like a top 6 player at their position anymore?
Dak is maybe there.
You could
maybe
argue borderline.
I would say
like number 6,
but you could. I think that's arguable, but
it is.
But my point being exactly what you were just touching on with, signing all these free agent or these mega deals to guys that, I mean, Dak's the only contract. Dak, his contract is brand spanking new, and at least he's young, but ever since they signed those other guys to these bigger contracts, their production has fallen off. So,
yeah.
I mean, be that as it may.
Well, speaking
wanted to get a roster,
Speaking of Cowboys, I guess I didn't get my point in early enough with this. I didn't bring this up, but I can't believe Zeke went as early in your projections too, or where he's going in Dynasty, considering what do you think, 2 years max left, and to have him go in the first, early second, like that's insane.
Yeah, 202 for me. I personally would have been more towards the end of the second or maybe the start of the third. I don't know. I like to plan for the long term in Dynasty, not the immediate. Moving on though, 12th round, Ryan Tannehill is going to be my week 1 starter because I can't believe Matt Nagy's going to let Justin Herbert do it. So I have to plug in Ryan Tannehill as said that wrong. Have to plug in Ryan Tannehill as my first few weeks starter until Justin Fields actually gets in. Dynasty wise, obviously Justin Fields is the guy.
Oh, God.
The rum's kicking in. But Tannehill's been really good the last few years, like quietly good and good for fantasy too. So happy to have him in the 12th. Josh, I matched you in the 13th with Gabe Davis.
Yeah, buddy.
Perfectly happy to get that, probably like a steady 7 touchdowns this year, and he's just going to increase his yardage a bit. And then round 14, De'Ami Brown, good things coming out of camp for him. Deserved better draft capital than he got, and he got pretty good draft capital in the 3rd round anyway. So I'm very happy to get De'Ami Brown in the Dynasty League in the 14th. And then I'll spit out one more here in the 15th. I went Marlon Mack because I have Jonathan Taylor. So that way, given the absolute shitty landscape of running backs in the 15th round of a Dynasty League, what I really wanted was someone who, if one of my starters went down, was going to benefit from it, which is Marlon Mack. So
I'm surprised Marlon Mack didn't end up going in the 2nd or 3rd round of all of our drafts the way that some of these people talk about him on Sleeper. It's insane.
Right.
There's such a strange obsession for him. But
yeah,
I think 7 touchdowns for Gabe Davis is maybe a little optimistic. I'd say maybe in that 4 or 5, probably.
I mean,
5.
he
had
already
7 last year.
He's still got, there's still digs out there. Cole Beasley's still there, assuming that he doesn't. Well,
and Gabe Davis is still there.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Gabe
Davis. I think right now that's his ceiling is 7, but I expect those yards to go up a ton. I mean, he had south of 600 yards last year, and I think he's looking at the 8-9, maybe crack 1,000, depending on Josh Allen's year, and depending on, I guess, what role Emmanuel Sanders has. But no, I like Gabe Davis there, and Marlon Mack makes sense too with the J-Tay pick. So I no arguments with any of those picks.
Yeah, I mean, I the only thing I had to say on Davis, I'm not saying that the 13th round was the bad spot for either of you guys to take him. I just think 7 touchdowns feels a little optimistic to me. That's almost every
I think
other
optimistic
game,
is fair,
which is possible.
There's that extra game this year though, Joe. Maybe he gets 8.
I'm just saying that's where I sit.
Possible.
But if he proves if he can prove it to me, okay. And again, I would have 13th round is fine. I would more think more yards, less touchdowns, where he's gonna get balance out those points.
That's fair.
Sure. Yeah, I do agree.
Right,
there's probably a balance coming. I got in round 16. And apparently I just reached around. Oh gosh, I didn't mean to say that. Josh,
I prefer the wraparound, Eric.
Okay. So if I remember right, you
Still
got
thinking about the honeymoon.
You got Gerald Everett in the 17th. Is that right?
I believe so. Let me vet that.
I took him in the 16th.
17th round.
Okay, I was not willing to let him pass as my backup tight end to Kyle Pitts. And then I'll just pound out the last 4 here.
Pound out with a reach around.
Yeah. Round 17, I went with Larry Roundtree in Los Angeles with the Chargers. Josh Kelly has not really proven a lot, and Austin Eckler was hurt last year. Not to say that Roundtree's going to start or anything like that, but he's closer to actual playing time than a lot of these running backs in this part of the draft. Round 18, Alan Lazard, for obvious reasons.
Very nice.
Being the Packers' number 2, assuming that Aaron Rodgers comes back, this is a huge value to get Alan Lazard in the 18th. Then in 19th, we got Chris Evans, Mr. Captain America, who Josh also took. I love the, I don't love the injury history of Joe Mixon, but it could lead to better things for Chris Evans along the way. So I'm happy to have him, and at worst case, he ends up as a Gio Bernard type player, which is still useful to a degree. And then
especially
my
given
last
this is PPR.
Oh yeah,
right, yeah. And my last pick, I went with Cornell Powell, wide receiver out of Clemson, who is currently on Kansas City. There's a shot that he is the wide receiver 2 in Kansas City for Patrick Mahomes, and that is too exciting of a prospect for me not to roster Cornell Powell. I don't really think that McCole Hardman is going to be the guy that leads the way for the next few years at the wide receiver 2 spot. I think we've seen enough to know that he's just not going to make all the right decisions to get there, and I have a little bit of faith that Cornell Powell can do it. Patrick Mahomes has said some great things about him so far in camp, so I'm willing to throw those dice and see what happens.
That's worth throwing the flyer.
No, because like you touched
question.
on that, McCole Hardman. I mean, he's been there for 2 years, and he's just a bomb touchdown. That's pretty much what you're going to get out of him. It's not any yardage. It's not PPR. It's just you got a couple catches and maybe he gets a long touchdown.
And
so
you hope that
I like that.
You hope he gets a 60, 70-yard touchdown somewhere.
That's what you're plugging him in for, is just that bomb play. But no, love that. Love the Evans pick. Lazard going that late. If Rodgers is there, that's a steal. And I would expect
that's sweet getting Lazard to fall that far.
Yeah,
that had to be an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, I would expect Lazard, if we get news that Aaron Rodgers is back, for sure, that Lazard will move up the draft board a little bit. But right now, yeah, absolutely take advantage of that late.
Yeah.
No, love it. So what do you have it tallied up? What you're sitting at roster-wise?
Yeah, so I know you and I drafted slightly different numbers just because, deep benches and stuff. I went with 2 QBs, 8 running backs, 8 wide receivers, 2 tight ends.
Okay. So very balanced as well. So
yes.
Awesome. So I'm
Jealous is shaking his head.
That's the exact same roster construction as mine.
Oh, good. All right. Well, you drafted from a different spot, so you should be wildly different.
I'm so curious to see what your draft board looked like, Ellis. So jump right into that. I'm curious. I'm actually curious to see who you ended up going with the first pick.
I am shocked with how well my team shook out, in my opinion.
Okay.
I had to go McCaffrey number 1.
Okay.
I think he's, obviously 2 strange injuries last year, but that's going to render him having really fresh legs. I like the prospects or the thought of, him with Darnold. And, again, I think a plus over Teddy, not that he got to work with Teddy that much, but still a plus there. The talent is undeniable. They use him in the running game, in the passing game, out wide, in the slot, bubble screens, anywhere that he possibly could be used, he is used. They did just give him that massive deal, which makes me think, okay, they're going to keep using him as much as they possibly can. So I had to go him number 1.
Yeah, that sounds fine to me. Who'd you pick it to?
Going back down to round 2, had to go with the guy that Josh picked, Najee. In that second round
nice
pick.
fall. That's a great value.
Got him
great value
at
there.
212.
Wow.
Najee fell to me. So.
Man, I didn't even have a chance at the 207.
Dang. Yeah, that's insane. Now, Ellis, kind of backtracking here.
And by the way, so Dobbins went ahead of Najee. Patrick Mahomes went ahead of Najee. There were some goofy picks.
Yeah, I could see if somebody wanted to get set with quarterback. Mahomes. You've got you can ride him off into the sunset too.
And you're going to have him for the next
Yeah.
decade, so I get
Now,
that. But
question I had for you, Ellis, I got sidetracked there. Now, knowing that you had the 1 pick in the draft going CMC, did you have some sort of strategy you were expecting to go about your dynasty dream team, or did it kind of fall into place, or kind of what
fell
were
into
you
place
thinking?
better than I was expecting it to, honestly. I was not expecting to be able to get Najee in the second.
Yeah, that's insane.
I was hoping I could get, a running back. I thought maybe it would be, I basically was kind of thinking, okay, I have my set RB1, and I'll just take best player available in round 2. And for me, especially given that it's Dynasty, there was no question that Najee was best player available.
Yeah.
So after
totally
that,
agree.
I got another what I think is a pleasant surprise. Got Michael Thomas in round for 3-0 at 301.
Okay.
I know that it's kind of a crapshoot at quarterback. If it's Taysom Hill, that's going to hurt MT.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's Jameis, I think he's in for, maybe not the same season that he had with Breeze, because that was just insane. But Winston, obviously, if they're going to have Winston back there, they're going to have him. He's going to throw the ball, and hopefully Thomas can actually stay healthy, get away from that ankle injury that bothered him all last year, and produce. Other guys that I was debating basically between him and George Kittle. Kittle went in the next round. Reason I stayed away from him was because in the 4th, Kyle Pitts.
What?
Kyle Pitts in the 4th.
How in the
That doesn't
heck
seem
did he
possible.
Came back to me. And then right after him, I got Jamar Chase. I don't...
That also doesn't add up.
Wow.
I've got my 2 backs, 2 receivers, and my tight end. I don't know how this happened. But
were you set
I'm
on
going off
Dynasty?
sleeper. I'm set on Dynasty.
He was doing a 6-team draft.
No,
Right?
it was
Man.
12 team. I can send the screenshot.
Oh,
it was
my
a 12
goodness.
team deal. I don't know how this happened, but
Let me
for the first 5 picks for them to shake out CMC, Najee, MT, Pitts, and Chase,
That's insane.
I can't
Yeah,
ask for anything more.
I would agree it's insane, and the fact that Michael Thomas is the worst of those 5,
Yeah,
and looking at the actual, where these players fell in, at least in mine, was Michael Thomas was at the 402, and both Jamar Chase and Kyle Pitts were in the middle of the
round.
third.
That's
So
where mine
I do
were,
not
too.
understand. I think that you are rocking a 6-team draft over there. That's
some sort of goofy It doesn't stay this pretty for the rest
Okay.
of the draft.
No,
Good.
but that's
For the first 5 picks,
I don't know that you could have done much
Insane.
better.
no.
I mean, that
no.
is
Nor do I have
absolutely
faith that a real draft
unbelievable.
would land like
no,
that.
that's
No,
this
I
is
don't
a
think so.
one-off
I
for
wouldn't
sure.
count
But
on it.
you know
But
what? It
again,
did,
hey,
so
what we're
let's-
saying, we're saying dream team, right?
And also,
So and it just
Homer leagues.
so happens that this is how my dream team landed, which is
You're right.
exactly how I would have absolutely drawn it up.
Homer leagues are not always smart.
Correct.
And this is how you take advantage of them. So let's just assume that Jealous was drafting with some people who really love their home team players and don't focus super close on fantasy details.
So close.
Closer.
Moving on to after now that I'm done bragging about my first 5 rounds,
Who's
let's go
pick
to,
6? Jonathan Taylor?
Jonathan Taylor actually went 6th in the first round.
That makes sense there.
Yeah.
Moving on to my 6th round pick, a guy that we have all decided to roster, of course, Courtland Sutton.
Yes.
Who seems to be the Dead Arm Sports player of the year. Just
He is the face of our own
face
franchise.
of Dead Arm Sports right now
Yeah.
is Courtland Sutton.
Yeah,
If
he's got a
he
good
ever,
face.
If
Handsome
he ever
fella.
feels the need to join the show, he is more than welcome on.
Yeah. We would love to have Courtland as our first guest.
So we don't need to dive too much into him.
Nope.
7th round, and we actually touched on him last week for a little bit in our bust sleeper episode. I'm a fan of Chase Claypool. I think he's the best receiver in that, for the Steelers. He may not be getting the greatest amount of targets, but he's still he's going to be their function as their wide receiver one. That's very worthy of a 7th round pick in my opinion. Some other guys that went around him, and also this was kind of why I was actually kind of hoping Javonte would fall to him. He went that was the round before. Well, either way, people that went after him were Myles Gaskin, Noah Fant, Deontay Johnson. I thought, in my mind, given that I already have Pitts, I'm not big on Myles Gaskin, and Deontay Johnson, as I touched on in last week's episode, not a fan of him. So Claypool was a no-brainer for me in that 7th round.
Speaking of our argument from last week, Ellis, would you like to do a warm beer chug bet on fantasy points at the end of the season versus Juju and Deontay? Putting you on the spot.
Let's fucking go.
All right, let's
Damn
do
right.
it.
Assuming Juju's mine?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Let's fucking go.
All right, let's do it.
What do you think about, I guess I'll do it for the fun of it.
He's going to try to work Claypool into this.
Yeah, what about Claypool instead of Juju?
No, because you were hard on Juju last week.
I was harder than Juju on Deontay.
No, that's what I'm saying. You had Deontay as a bust last week, and I had Juju as a bust. So that's what
let's
we're
fucking
doing.
go.
Let's
fucking go then.
Lock it in.
Lock it in. Cha-ching.
Other thing, just seeing your roster construction right now. I absolutely love it. No quarrels at all. Qualms, but very curious on what your running back room is going to look like now, because you went running back with the first 2 picks, so I'm very intrigued by the remainder of your draft.
Guess what's happening in round 8?
I was hoping you were going to say a running back, but just...
It's another tight end.
Trey Sermon.
Okay.
Jeez.
What the fuck is going... Hold on. Let me stop you quick here. All right. In mine, Chase Claypool went at the 5'10", which is a round and a half earlier than yours, along with, in the 6th round, early 6th, was Noah Fant and Deontay Johnson, who you both said went around Chase Claypool. And now you say Trey Sermon, who Josh and I both took in the mid-7th, and you got him in the 8-12?
I got him at 8-12, yeah.
This is horse shit. You lick someone's butthole for this.
Dream team, okay?
Yeah.
Well, you're dreaming big time.
Like I said, I can send you these screenshots. It's legit.
Send me the screenshots of the draft settings as well.
Post them on our social media sites too, so all of our listeners can see it.
DAS at Dead Arm Sports on Instagram and Twitter.
If you're going to plug that right now, you have to post a screenshot of your draft on there just as a reference point.
I will.
All right, continue.
Okay, so that's my 8. And then 9th round, had to go with another Niner, Trey Lance. I am not planning on using him right away. He's not going to be starting day 1, but for Dynasty purposes, I love him from basically like week 10 of this year through the rest of his career.
Nice. I like it. Rick, let's play a fun game right now. You and I are going to guess Ellis's starting quarterbacks for the first couple weeks. Who do you think he's got coming up?
Wait,
because he drafted Trey Sermon, so he's got to use one of his next couple picks on a quarterback that he's going to start right away.
I got you.
Who do you think? Think he's going to go with your boy Tanny?
I think he's going to go with... I think he should go with Tanny, but I bet he's going to go with Tim Brady.
That's who I was leaning with, the plant man.
Big Tim.
Big Tim Brady.
Big time Timmy Jim.
Big time
Timmy Jim. Mr. Kale himself. But let's find out.
Let's find out. Round 10, pleasant surprise for me. And I know Josh is not so hard on him, but Mike Davis got him in the 10th round. Again, just some additional running back depth. He then just falls into my running back 4 spot, which is I think that's a very solid 4th running back.
Yeah, and
just to confirm, this is at the 10-12?
Correct, yeah, it would be.
This is fucking horse shit. He went at the 9-1 in mine.
Damn. But No,
this is at 10-12.
I think Davis is going to be a bust, but like I had mentioned, I think they're going to bring somebody in that I mentioned last week. I think they'll just end up bringing somebody in. Davis will get phased out, but with pairing him with Sermon, I think you can overlap those two where it'll give Sermon some time to take over that starting role. So for your sake, I don't mind the Davis pick there. But yeah, that's bullshit. He went that late.
The fuck, man.
Next round, this is my 11-01. Guy that I have been harsh on in the past, but I think is going to be able to provide me with some ace and wide receiver depth and definitely plenty of upside. Rondale Moore. He fell, yep. Sweet. The ball skills are there. My biggest concern has always been his size, but his athleticism and his ball skills are elite. And, as much as I think Cliff Kingsbury sucks at winning football games, he'll probably know how to get a guy with Rondale Moore's, with his skill set involved in the passing game, the running game, and special teams, kind of whatever way they need to. So I got him at 11. Swinging back around at the 12-12 pick. I got a guy that I know Rick took. I don't know if you took him too, Josh, but Chuba.
Nope, I did not.
Especially given that I've got McCaffrey, of course, as my first overall pick. Got to have that handcuff. I don't. The only role that I really see him in is that handcuff role in case McCaffrey does go down. But it's had to get him there. That was a pretty easy pick for me. 13-1, guy again that we've talked about multiple times on this podcast, multiple times just throughout multiple episodes. Russell Gage. He was one of my hard guys from the episode 2 weeks ago. So I had to get him in there.
Yeah.
And I'll take him in the 13th round, no question. We've touched on so many of these guys already, so there isn't too much more to...
Well, naturally, we're going to draft all the guys we like.
Too much more to say. This is my 14-12 pick on the wraparound, or the reach around, as Rick, Dirty Rick, appropriately nicknamed, likes to call it. Amari Rodgers, gonna be a sweet slot guy. I'm hoping, as a Packer fan, he ends up in that Randall Cobb role.
Well, he's gonna be the only Rodgers on the team.
We'll fucking see about that. I'm hoping since Aaron is, having a sweet ass time out in Hawaii or wherever the hell he is, that Jordan Love and Amari are getting some sweet reps together.
You guys saw him in the good old golf match this last week. That was pretty sweet to watch. Him and Tom
and Phil and
DeChambeau.
Bryson DeChambeau. he that asshole, he Kansas caddy, or I guess it was a mutual separation
a couple weeks back.
My favorite part of that was Brooks coming out and just roasting him on Twitter. Saying,
I love that.
Yeah, that was great.
That was Brooks is winning this battle.
Yes, he is.
I think pretty much everybody can agree that Bryson is a douche, and Brooks is also a douche, but he's being a actually humorous douche.
Yeah.
Where Bryson's just being a dickhead.
The only thing I can say is that it's almost like Brooks is just constantly refreshing his Twitter just to see if there's any sort of DeChambeau news, because it's almost immediate every single time, where it's really, dude.
He is very fast. He clearly cares about this.
Yeah, it's in his head more than he plays off. So,
well, the PGA did come out, and I think that this has a huge part in playing into all of this, is when the PGA came out and said they had a pool of money to pay each golfer, the top however many golfers based on their Q score, and that is based off of Twitter mentions and Google searches, and I don't know the entire metrics behind it, but Brooks is going to end up winning that pool.
Yeah, no,
he's going to end up winning most of that money.
Absolutely,
unless they can still give it. Unless Tiger is still eligible,
right? No, absolutely.
Maybe Phil probably will end up finishing up there, but I bet it's probably Phil, Brooks, and Bryson as those top three earners.
Oh yeah, and hashtag not a golf podcast. What's your 15th pick, El?
Great hashtag. I'm sure that'll catch on.
Hashtag not, yeah.
Maybe
not a PGA.
Maybe
yeah,
eventually.
Not a PGA pod.
I'd love to talk some golf, but this is we'll get into your 15th pick here, Joe.
This is where I went with my week 1 starting QB,
right.
Derek Carr.
Ooh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. I don't mind it.
The other guys that were there around him that were available for QBs were Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson. For me, given that I'm only going to use him ideally for the first half of this year or so, Derek Carr's going to put up steady numbers, and if through week 4 he sucks, hopefully there's somebody on waivers that I can pick up.
Derek Carr's first, you know what? Let's just call it 5 matchups are Ravens, Steelers, Dolphins, Chargers, Bears. You feel good about those defenses?
I know you guys listening can't see my face, but okay, well.
Not the best schedule.
Rounder.
It was kind of a look that somebody would get when they draft 2 quarterbacks and then after the draft find out they have the same bye week. That's kind of the same look. Same look for the listeners.
Same concept happened.
Yeah.
Because both Derek Carr and Trey Lance are on bye for the first 5 weeks as far as we're all concerned.
As far as, in terms of matchups. Well, so not the most... guess not the most pleasant of matchups, but it's not like I was gonna take Big Ben or some of these other guys.
That's fair.
Now in hindsight, Jameis was out there. Well, whatever.
Doesn't matter now.
Since it's the dream team,
yep.
I'm gonna change my round 15 pick and go Jameis.
There you go. All right. It's Jameis Winston. I don't mind that pick. That's fine.
Change it on the fly.
Granted, you could have a 15th pick that isn't even starting week 1.
You could have
no
starting quarterback.
Enough out of you guys. Basically, point being, I needed a QB for the first half of this week, and that's it. Or this season.
Sure,
sounds good.
Not the first half of this week.
We get the direction you're headed now.
Yeah. We'll let it slide. What you got in 16?
Just throw whoever. Derek Carr was the best. I did not look at his schedule. That is frightening.
Jealous picked Sam Darnold in the 15th. Just to be clear. All right, who'd you pick in 16?
Moving on. 16. A little extra tight end depth, somebody behind Pitts for Pitts bye week. Although again, I didn't look at the bye week, so I'm hoping this works out schedule wise. But I had to go with Gronk. I don't know that he's for a backup tight end. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
He still puts up touchdown numbers. We saw him in the Super Bowl. He way outperformed, I think, what anybody would have thought he would have done in that game with his 2 scores pretty damn early in the game. Seems like he's still got something in the tank, and obviously Brady and him still have that same rapport that they did in New England.
Yeah. I'm gonna shit on this pick for a second, and not that I have anything against Gronk, but
you're gonna shit on Gronk?
No, just shit on the pick where you just went here.
Okay.
But anyways, just with last week's episode, we were all pretty high on Gerald Everett, so I'm sure with this pick he was probably available there. So what was your thoughts there that you didn't go with Gerald Everett? Just Gerald Everett was having him.
He was available actually.
Okay. I'm just curious on your thoughts.
I had Gronk last year, and I used him quite a bit in the second half of the season. I thought he would have fallen off by then. I traded away in our Dynasty League. I traded just straight up Odell for Gronk, and trying to make a championship push. And Gronk was serviceable at the end of the year, which was, again, surprising to me. But he feels like more of a sure thing than Everett. And for a backup tight end, I'd rather have somebody that I know isn't gonna give me a goose egg. Where we don't really know. I mean, I'm high on Gerald Everett. All 3 of us are high on Gerald Everett, but nothing is guaranteed. And for a second tight end that I'm going to leave on my roster for this year, probably only this year, I felt comfortable taking Gronk here.
Yeah.
I like it.
No, absolutely. And I just wanted to give more of the listeners an inside look into what you were thinking at the time, too. So, absolutely.
Moving on, just going to kind of blast through these last 4 picks. At 17, I got Gio Bernard, thinking, hey, passing game. Brady likes to use his tight ends. We touched on that a little bit in last week's episode. Or
running backs,
tight ends. His passing backs.
Yeah.
I think Bernard's going to get plenty of time on the field, and if I have to throw him into a flex spot on bye weeks, that's, I at least know I'm going to get something out of that. At 18, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Reason I did this.
Oh, goodness.
Interesting.
Reason I did this. When Odell was out last year, which was most of the year, Peoples-Jones didn't put up, incredible week-to-week fantasy numbers, but he did have quite a few highlight reel catches.
Yeah.
He was the top wide receiver
sure
coming out of high school, going into Michigan. And so the talent is obviously there. It's just a matter of him getting the ball fed to him on a consistent basis. We don't know what Odell, is he going to stay healthy this year? Who knows? He hasn't over the last few. I think DPJ can, at least be a contributor, and I'm willing to take a late round pick on him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it. You probably could have waited, but at this point, who cares? You can wait on everybody at the end.
Right.
Yeah, no.
So, I'm fine with it.
I agree. I caught a couple Browns games last year because they're never on TV. Started to get a little bit on TV last year because they were decent, but no, he's got the talent. And I don't mind that pick at all.
19th round, DJ Dallas. Running back depth. If Chris
That's
Carson
you,
goes
dude.
Down, and I had to go with him for the name, for the reason, or the
DJ Jelly
name,
Gel from Dallas.
DJ Dallas. DJ Jelly Gel taking DJ Dallas, living in Dallas. That was a bit of the reason why I went for it.
It's like a must-have. You had to draft him.
Had to jump on it. And then last round, again, same thing with you guys. Chris Evans.
Yeah.
All right, so apparently we're a Chris Evans podcast, Captain
Chris
America
Evans
all the way.
Fandom. If he wants to be on the show as well, he.
I think just to
either
voice like
Chris
a,
Evans.
like a,
it's fine.
well, right, but seriously though, it's okay to roster Chris Evans because the Bengals have Joe Mixon, who gets hurt every single year. They have Samaje Perine, who has been in the league for, 4 years and has never been...
Before Joe Mixon.
Relevant. Yeah, before Joe Mixon. And now they have rookie pass catcher, great hands, Chris Evans, who is taking the role of Gio Bernard straight up. Gio Bernard got plenty of work last year. He's a guy that should be on rosters, especially in Dynasty leagues. It's not even close.
One of the offensive coaches for the Bengals did say that Chris Evans has one of the smoothest... he's one of the smoothest route running, smoothest catching backs he's ever coached before. So that's going to be his role, and that's useful, especially in PPR.
Yeah, his college story is a little different than the normal player because he had a academic misconduct issue, and instead of transferring like any other player would have so that he can get straight to playing, he decided to stay at Michigan, make up for his mistake, and just keep working through it. And as a result, he got less production at Michigan, which lowered his draft stock. The point is, none of that impacts how he actually plays on the field. It just shows that he's got good character for sticking up for the fact that he made a mistake and he had to fix it, and was willing to risk his future a little bit to do the right thing. And now he's, on the field in the NFL. He's undervalued right now, to me.
Absolutely.
I would agree with that, yeah. So for a 20th round pick, I'm very, very happy with that.
Yeah. So Jel, does that mean you also ended at 2 QBs, 2 tight ends, and 8 of each skill position?
8 running back, 8 receivers, 2
Beautiful.
QB, 2 tight end. Yep.
Super balanced.
Yeah,
balanced roster.
Absolutely love your team, Jealous. The only thing that might be the dream downfall here is just the QB spot, depending on who wins that starting job in New Orleans. So I love the sermon, but maybe I would have hedged it with somebody I know as the starting quarterback. But no, I love it. Winston's the starter.
I was going back. I did wait quite a bit to get Derek Carr. I could have gotten somebody. There was like Matt Ryan going around 10, 11. I could have gone him and would have had a little bit more of a sure thing, but. I was able to still get Mike Davis and then Rondale Moore at rounds 10, 11. So
yeah. No, absolutely.
I don't have, that's how it shook out for me. And if Derek Carr blows the first, if Jameis doesn't get that job, then I pick up somebody off waivers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kirk
Cousins.
And there's gonna be veteran QB options out there as well.
Except
so,
if I'm in your league, I'm going to see this, and I'm just going to scoop up all the quarterbacks. So then you're screwed.
No, we're not. We're not going to be in a league together this year, Josh. Don't worry about it.
Dang it.
So if there's any takeaway from today, it is that you should not draft Derek Carr in a redraft league because his schedule sucks for the first 5 weeks.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest takeaway.
That's the biggest takeaway. Yeah.
That,
hype him.
Your 15th rounder, don't take Derek Carr.
What you need to do is plant the seed in the rest of your league. Like, man, Derek Carr, Henry Ruggs is poised to take a huge leap. Derek Carr is going to be great.
Schedule.
Just, oh my gosh, I can't wait to draft him. Let somebody else do it, and then laugh in their face.
More like Derek Bentley. Come on.
That's the worst. That's the worst you could have done there.
You know, I'm working on my dad jokes because I'm not a dad yet.
You chose a Bentley to shit on somebody?
Yeah, it was a joke. It was sarcasm. It was a
very bad one.
I know. That's why I'm working on my dad jokes. I'm not a dad yet, but I want to get there.
You should have went like Derek Geoprism or something.
Keep working. Don't stop working because there's a lot to do.
Dads never stop working on their jokes.
A lot of work to do.
All right. Well, that was fun.
It
was fun to talk about. Yeah, I enjoyed that. That was our Dynasty Dream Teams based on several attempts at mock drafts to get it to go the way that we wanted it to go. As you saw, we had some overlap. We had some differences. Some of us had a little better luck than others. And that is the nature of how fantasy drafts work.
That's just skill, baby. That's just skill.
Or I guess it's skill. It's not luck at all. It's just skill to get Kyle
100%.
Pitts way after every other draft takes him.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I got you. Any last minute plugs you guys want to throw out there?
I'll wait and save all the socials for Ellis here, but just want to preview next week. Dirty Rick is going to be on his honeymoon, so you got the two guys left standing, me and DJ Jelly Gel here. We're going to do a mock draft, so we're going to put it out on socials for you guys. We'll put a little poll out if you'd like to have us do separate mock drafts or if you want us to draft the same team together and run through our viewpoints. So we'll put that up on socials here, and we'll go off the votes and see what you guys want to do, but something to look forward to for next week.
Those socials being that Josh was talking about on Instagram and on Twitter at Dead Arm Sports. Use that hashtag DAS. Hit us up in the DMs. Slide into them like you would any other
like you're stealing home. Like you're stealing home.
Like you're stealing home. Come in hard, and we'll be sure to get back to you. And as mentioned before, or on the previous episode, any questions that you guys have,
absolutely, we're ready to answer.
We'll be sure to we'll get Rick can handle that.
Yep. Just text him. Just text him your questions to 8675309.
That's the one.
Hit him on the bat phone.
No area code. That's
Dead on. Dead arm.
Dead arm.
All right, dead arm.
Yeah. Dead arm.
Well, that will wrap it up for our Dynasty Dream Team episode. Thank you again for joining us, and we will catch you on the next one.
Catch you on the flippity flip.
Whoop.
Michael Scott.